Homestead, directed by Ben Smallbone and made through the studio, Angel Studios, who made The Chosen as well as Sound of Freedom and some other Christian-based movies and TV shows. Now, I'm just going to be upfront with you. Christian TV shows and movies tend to get a bad rap because the acting is generally not very good, the budgets are low, and the storylines are very cheesy. But in my opinion, I think that Homestead was a little bit of a breath of fresh air for the movie industry, specifically the Christian movie industry, because it's done relatively well. I went about 3 weeks after it came out, and the theater was completely sold out. The budget was around $5 million, and it has brought in about $20 million. So it's made decent money. I think generally it was pretty well received. But online, it has, on IMDb, a 5.6 out of 10 star rating. Is that fair? Well, we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to give you a amateur prepper and survivalist perspective on the movie and talk a little bit about if the movie was any good. Homestead is about a nuclear bomb that goes off the coast of California, and basically the chaos that ensues from that. If we discover that somewhere in the Rocky Mountains is a doomsday prepper's paradise. I'm talking a giant mansion compound filled to the brim with greenhouses and guns and ammunition, medical supplies, kind of a doomsday prepper's paradise. And what happens when everyone around you wants to get in there? So the story follows kind of the storyline of a character who is ex-military, who is basically a mercenary hired by the compound's owner to provide security and protection for the people on the inside of the compound. Now, I say it loosely follows him because one of the bad parts of the movie is that there were 1 million characters. And the movie is over 2 hours long, and I found myself throughout the movie being like, why are we chasing this storyline, and why are they introducing new characters to the movie about an hour and a half or 2 hours into the movie? It just seemed very odd. I say all that to say, generally, I really enjoyed the movie. I don't think the 5.6 out of 10 stars is quite fair. I would give it closer to maybe 6.5 stars, maybe 7 out of 10, but I am a pastor and I'm a follower of Jesus and I am a doomsday prepper, and so I think the movie was made just for me. So it makes sense that I would enjoy it a little more. But I went there with Heather, my wife, as well as another couple from our church who literally have a homestead. And I wanted him to come with me to kind of get a perspective, not just from like a camping and survivalist guy, but also a homesteader. And we talked for a while after the movie about kind of some of the themes that we saw. So I'm going to share some of those with you. How accurate did they get it? Generally speaking, I think they did a very good job showing us all the different aspects of what goes into prepping. It was as if they talked to a few preppers and said, what do we want to add into the movie? And the preppers said yes. And so in the movie, you're going to get Bugout bags, go bags. You're going to get what would survivalism actually look like in this type of scenario. And you're going to get things like, how do you travel when things are in utter chaos in your country? How do you get groceries? How do you farm? What about medical supplies? How do you protect the things that matter for not just your survival, but your family's survival? So all of these things kind of go into the themes of the movie, and parts of it, I think they got it really well. From the survivalist perspective, actually pretty accurate. There were some things that didn't quite make sense because once they actually made it to the compound, they basically had a caravan, I'm going to say, of hundreds of people and families waiting at the gate trying to get into the compound so that they could feed their families and be protected. And I didn't buy that. I don't buy that at all. I think that was one of the most unrealistic parts of the movie. You talk to any real survivalist, any real prepper, they will tell you that if they have a bug out location, they're not going to share it with the world. Now, full disclosure, I'm not an expert on all things prepping, but I do have a 20-acre off-grid property where I'm building an off-grid cabin, not just to enjoy and have fun with my family and create memories, so that's part of it, but a big part of it is in case something bad were to happen, we could bug out there and pretty much be off the grid for a long period of time. And while I share some of those experiences on YouTube, I'm not posting online where this is actually located. I don't name the city, I don't name the county. I just say it's in West Tennessee. And so if you can find it, good for you. But no real prepper is going to share those things. And so yes, in this type of scenario, they would see the mansion, but they would have no clue that they have guns and ammo and food and greenhouses and, you know, all that stuff as well. So I don't buy that part at all. One of the things that I really liked about the movie is that this nuke goes off the coast of California. It's not in the middle of LA or something like that. And that is it. It's not like most apocalyptic movies where it's just like bombs happening all throughout, synchronized in America or somewhere else. It's not like a zombie apocalypse. It's like one little thing, I say little, one thing happens, and what is the fallout from that one act? And so this movie, I think, did a great job of showing us that even though it wasn't in a city, it was off the coast, everybody freaked out and civil unrest ensued across the nation. There are some other things in there about the electric grid going down and some other stuff, but generally speaking, that's what I really appreciated about it. I think what COVID-19 and other things showed us is that something small can put into motion a lot of civil unrest, a lot of distrust for the government, and a lot of people who are more interested in prepping. And so I say all that not to say anything political, but simply to say I do think it's believable that the system that we have set up can be thrown off. It's very fragile with one big action. And so always appreciate that about movies when it's not like, you know, the Book of Eli or, you know, some World War III post scenario where everything is destroyed. But what would happen if one major escalation took place and how that would affect even people on the other side of America? But where I think the movie really shined was when it faced the question of how do Christians handle charity and brotherly love in an apocalyptic or doomsday type scenario. One scene really stuck out to me that I thought was extremely powerful, and that is that the owner of the compound is on one side of a gate at the entryway to the property. On the other side is the caravan, and there's a family there that knows the owner. And so they're standing kind of between the bars, and the dad is saying, "Help us, help us, help us." And the guy says, "No, I can't help you." And in response, the man said, "We used to serve homeless people together, and you won't let me in?" And I thought that was really powerful. Like, what would you do in that type of scenario? I had to ask myself that question. You know, if I were to bug out to my cabin and people were to reach out to me saying, "Can I come out there with you?" what would I do? I felt the tension in that moment of wanting to be loving and help people, especially the people that I know and trust, but also feeling the tension of wanting to protect my family and protect what God has entrusted to me. And that's where I thought the movie really should have leaned deeper into. But unfortunately, that theme was only explored for a few minutes, and generally speaking, the movie was kind of all over the place. I didn't quite understand the pacing of it. I didn't understand the amount of characters that were in it. When it was really focusing on doomsday stuff, I thought that it was doing really well, but all of a sudden, I just started wondering, why are you introducing so many characters? And then I discovered why. Mini spoiler alert. The movie just kind of ends abruptly, and I was like, oh, okay, is that how it's going to end? Okay, cool, I guess. And I'm getting ready to get out of the theater, and all of a sudden, stuff comes back on the screen. And it says, go to the app, you can watch the next episode of this series. I didn't know this going in. I thought it was just a movie. It is a pilot episode of a TV series. So all of a sudden I'm thinking, okay, now I understand why there's a million characters and a million themes. They took a pilot episode of a TV show and crammed it into a movie. What they should have done was simplify the movie, simplify the characters, cut about 30 minutes out of the movie, then let us know, okay, this is a TV series. But they tried to do way too much, in my opinion, which really hurt the film, because overall it was actually really interesting. Another thing that I appreciated was that it did not feel low budget. There were beautiful drone shots of the Rocky Mountains. There were good cinematography used, in my opinion. It looked like it was well made and well done, that they didn't cut corners and things like that. And so that was another thing that I thought, was really good for the movie. Christian movies need to have bigger budgets so that they can compete with non-Christian movies and show the world that we like to make beautiful art that is interesting for people to interact with. So who is this movie for? I would say if you're interested in survivalism or doomsday type scenarios and you're a believer, I would say this is kind of right up your alley. You're going to find the movie entertaining. You're going to find it enjoyable, even though it's not perfect. If you're not interested in those things, and if you don't care a Christian's perspective on it, then you probably won't like the movie that much. Overall, I thought it was pretty realistic, apart from some of the problems that I mentioned, but I definitely think it's worth watching. It made me interested enough to maybe check out the series, which is a good thing. And so I always base how much I enjoy movies on how much it makes me think and how much that I and my wife want to talk about it once it's done. If we drive home and we're quiet and she's on her phone or something, I know it wasn't that great of a movie. But if we're talking about, oh, that was really cool, or that was really interesting when they explore that, or I like this, I didn't like that, then I knew it was at least engaging. But storytelling, not as good, but I do think that it shed a good light on prepping, on survivalism, on a doomsday scenario. And overall, I liked it, thought it was pretty cool. So if you've seen the movie, I would encourage you, please comment below your thoughts on what it got right, what it got wrong, and any other thoughts on Homestead. God bless you, and remember, God's creation is meant to be explored.